Some of you might notice that Greg Sutcliffe isn't on here. He is still around. Hopefully some of you may know he's moved over to the Fedora infrastructure, but is still heavily involved with a lot of the Ansible. Good stuff. So, we're here to talk about the community. So what cool stuff have folks done? The Ansible releases, so this is all our upstream work, has been continued to be opened up really well. And as I mentioned earlier, Anwish has done a great job. We've got some new release managers. So these are folks releasing the Ansible package, so pip install Ansible, and also the Ansible Community execution environments. This is pure community work, right? Every bit of infrastructure, all the signing, all that stuff is all publicly available. It's in GitHub. No stuff behind the Red Hat VPN anymore. And this is a great example of where we've empowered our community, and we've brought this whole release process around here, and governance, right? Because release is part technical, it's partly around, keeping up with the flow and responding to changes. We've done three major releases last year, 11, 12 and 13. We've also got Trey on the team that's been trained up as a full mentor. And just these releases are almost getting boring, I guess now. They're nicely ticking along, things work quite well. There's the occasional hiccup, but they're few and far in between, and it's a real testament to what the community's done. So like I said, all these slides are going to be available. We've got these nice little call-out boxes here with the clickable links where if you want to find out more, there's generally a link to a forum post or maybe a part of the Ansible documentation where you can go in find out more and join in from home. So one of the huge projects we finished at the end of last year was the move to read the docs. And I'm not going to say I could spend like 40 minutes talking about this, but thankfully Don at the back of the room is going to be talking about this at 4 o'clock in here. No, in the other room, sorry, in 14. This is another bit of infrastructure that was partly managed by Red Hat. It was a bit clunky. It involved Jenkins. It involved some different jobs. We've moved all of this to read the docs. And one of the great advantages of this is now when you raise the PR against anything that has docs in, the little checks will run and you'll get a live rendered version of your documentation. You've got to remember, Ansible is at a scale, it's big. So if you're just editing a single markdown file, you know what it's going to look like. But if you're building a whole docs item and to alter a theme, or maybe go and update some RST, restructured text links, you need to build the whole thing to make sure it works and then to get some feedback. And we have this now thanks to the work that Don and some of the community folks have done. Still a bit more to do, but we're sort of 90% of the way through there. And this is always a good point to call out that docs is a great way for people to come and contribute to Ansible. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to Ansible. In fact, I'd say those of you that are brand new can even offer a lot more, because you can hold us accountable. You can go, well, what doesn't make sense as a first-time contributor? I don't read the docs these days to go and do an Ansible thing, because it's just muscle memory, right? But for those of you just sort of starting out your automation journey, tell us if we jump, if we go from step 1 to 2 and it doesn't make sense, tell us what the extra details are. You don't have to necessarily contribute the words, right? Don't worry if English is your second or third language, right? We can help with that, but it's a great way to contribute to the community. Maybe you'll get a little green box on GitHub, or have some fun on there. One of the other parts of this is we've got a new unified doc site, so everything is now on docs.ansible.com. So we've got better linking between other sites as well. We did a seamless migration. I'm really proud of what we achieved here. I think there's some tens of thousands of pages we swapped over, and no one noticed, which, for those of us that are sysadmins in here, it's a double-edged sword, right? We don't want to be noticed sometimes, apart from when it's peer review time. But really good work there. And this is probably why I don't do design work. This is 5 different screenshots from different parts of the new docs.ansible.com landing page. At the top, we've got our personas, so getting started users, developers, maintainers, ecosystem will contribute, and then we've got these sort of different sections on there. So if you don't know where to start, just go into docs.ansible.com and then trying to make the page more discoverable to sort of lead into what do you want to do today. And again, it's all online, so go and have a look at it and give us some feedback. So, We've had some other bits around the AWX. So AWX development is all back happening upstream. The big refactor of that bit of code is all done. And we're now really focused on making the developer and contributor life easier. So we now have open API documentation. There's a screenshot just here on the right. So this is all auto-generated. We've already had some feedback on some of the layout and bits, and we're going to get some PRs raised based on that to improve the layout. So it's all auto-generated, so it's always live. And then over time, hopefully, we'll see contributions from you folks to go and improve all of that. The AWX operator reached 3.0 last year, and I think there were 2 or 3 follow-up releases as well, which has been great. And there's a new thing, I was hoping the repo would be opened up by today, but maybe in the next couple of days, called Ansible 2e. So we've got a that's a textual user interface that one of the AWX developers, Red Hat, is using just for their own sort of quick development and testing. And it seems like a useful tool, so we're going to go and make that available to anyone in GitHub Ansible Community. And you can, it's not a supported tool, it's just like a way of sort of managing and talking directly to the API. So it's quick, it's easy, it's a text-based thing. It also looks like a text-based thing, so for those of you that really are missing the 1960s mainframe interface, I'm sure we'll have some. I'd really love it to be a fun little thing. We've obviously got a pixel art Rage Potato on there, but like I said, I was hoping the repo would be open, but in the next couple of days. We'll announce that on the forum. I hope you folks find it useful for doing a bit of like development and testing of the AWX repo. So we've got links to those bits in the slides and the new API docs there. So if you remember when we started all of the AWX modernization work, as we talked about creating these standalone components with these good APIs, in documentation. So the API work that Thibaut's done here, want to get some feedback on and then roll that out to other parts of the Ansible ecosystem. And this is an Ansible specific stuff, right? This is using, I think it's Swagger. I think, if I'm remembering that correctly, it's one of the standard API frameworks, because we use that good open source tooling. So talking about tooling, obviously, we have a community, and it's a community where all the good stuff's happening. So there's 2 new tools that are mostly done last year. So there's AndyBox, it's by Russo, so that's really there to take out a lot of the boring, tedious work from collection development, especially around sort of boilerplate tasks and testing, partly around scaffolding new collections as well. And then there's Ansible Nox, which is put together by Felix, and I think there's a talk yesterday, so for those of you watching the recording, by the time this goes online, we'll get the full links in there. And these are 2 tools that are sort of complementary, right? So Ansible Nox is, those of you from the Python world might recognize the Nox bit there, so it uses the Nox framework but makes it a lot easier to use. In fact, here's the man at the front. So I'm doing a terrible job of explaining on this project. But what's really cool is this was developed by the community, getting into feedback, solving their problems. And I think we're at the state where this is quickly becoming the opinionated Ansible way of doing things. So for those of you that are going to be joining tomorrow at a contributor summit, I think it's something we'll be talking about there to say, well, what are the next steps? How do we have this as the de facto way to make it easier for folks just starting to go, here's a good opinionated way? Because choice is good, right? We all like the flexibility. But, do we necessarily need 27 different ways to do, for our variable presidency? It's a double-edged sword sometimes. So, who's upgraded to Ansible 2.19 so far? Okay. Keep your hands up if that was a slightly painful or involved thing. Cool. To say, double pain. Cool. Do folks understand why we made you all go through that pain? Yeah, we're seeing some nods there. Excellent. So we shifted the security model of Ansible, right? Like, Nils Mahon's in the room, right, and I think he's going to talk about this a little bit later on. There's a load of things that just happen to work and really shouldn't have done. We've got to be careful, right? Automation's brilliant and it's powerful, But you can quickly go and automatically break all your systems at once, right? And so being very explicit and clear about what does this variable mean. Let's make sure we don't leak any credentials, or that if this thing is a string or an int, let's treat it that way. I always call it the Norway problem, right? Is Norway a country code, or is it the variable, another way of saying false, right? For those of you that have been doing YAML for a while, you probably tripped over bits like that. So it was a lot of work, and there's a reason why in the commercial offering, Ansible Core 2.19 is under tech preview. It's not officially capital S supported. In my mind, this was one of the real highlights of the community last year, right? We had some amazing forum discussions. I think I've got the stats there. Yeah, we had one post where I think we had 56 different people replying, giving us feedback, talking about some better ways of doing stuff, and the code developed pretty rapidly. Yeah, there were bumps, but this is why it wasn't released, right? And we've ended up with a really solid bit of functionality, help driven by you folks, right? Because you helped us identify edge cases and giving us bits of feedback that we hadn't gone through, and it really demonstrated the value of testing upstream. I'm now going to be very direct. One of the things it pointed out, though, is that sometimes our community is better updating their collections than other parts of Ansible engineering. Anyone use the Ansible network collection? Anyone tripped up by some bugs in that? Yeah, because a few nods there. Yeah, we messed up, right? I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not here to do the sales pitch, right? But one thing we're going to do going forward is we're going to make sure that my team supports those folks and the other collection maintainers a lot more to sort of avoid those problems, to get more opinionated with how we should be testing. And on networking specifically, we're going to be moving those folks more into the Ansible forum. Over the next few months, their Slack instance is going to go away because it's a bit of a ghost town anyway. And then to try and bring the communities together and help all these things better. So for those who haven't moved to Ansible 2.19 yet, other folks have been through the pain, and we should be in a good spot. We've got some pin posts in the forum with really good details, just exactly how to go through and make those updates. So, talking of updates, we also killed off some things. So, when we moved to collections, back in Ansible 2.9? 2.10, yeah, thank you. We had a few sort of generic dumping grounds, community general being one and community network being the others. Anything that didn't end up in a dedicated collection we sort of left in one of those two repos, and slowly over time as maintainers and sometimes even companies came up and would take the collections out and go into the dedicated repo and get better testing, dedicated community. If you're interested in this thing, you just go to one thing rather than being lost in the noise of however many hundreds, hopefully not thousands this time, of issues and PRs floating around. Community network, anything that anyone is interested in has been taken out, and we've now officially archived it. Still there for posterity, you can go and check out the code if you want to, but we've clearly signalled that there's no more updates going on there. And I view this as a success. We've taken out the bits that are good. We're not interested in the rest. If at any point anyone is interested in taking over those collections, start a forum post and we can help do the migration for that. One recent example of that is the community Proxmox was something that was just in community general. It's now in a dedicated collection. It's got really explicit testing against it. We've got a load of good docs and quite a few maintainers written on there. Anyone using that stuff? Anyone using Proxmox 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe almost 10.
I also got another interesting note on that. So we've done this for a year now, and where in community general it didn't receive much attention, we've merged over 100 PRs last year.
That's amazing. So the feedback from the room, yes, round of applause for the feedback. So just for the benefit of those watching the recording, when the Proxmox code was in community general, there was very little sort of engagement or traction, and it's been about a year that we've had a dedicated collection for that, and they've just recently had their 100th pull request, which is, however you look at it, an amazing bit of work, and really shows that, this is one of the whole aims of collections, right, where you can go, if you're interested in Ansible and X, then just find that repository, right? You've got people that are only interested in those things rather than being lost in the noise, so that's a great success. Thanks for adding the context there. Another success is the Open vSwitch. So this used to be Red Hat capital S supported. Red Hat are no longer interested in maintaining that, and rather than this just being left to Bitwar or get archived or probably not deleted, but archived. That screen's gone off. I assume it's still okay. One of the things that's has been great is a few members of the community have stepped up and said, well, we'd like to be maintainers of this. And we're like, great, so we have empowered our community, right? This is the whole point that GitHub Ansible collections exists, is that if maintainers leave, some of the Red Hat still have the keys, the admin on that GitHub org, and go, okay, well, you seem like you know what you're doing, here's permission to go do some stuff, and they have, and they've, they're updating the testing, they're fixing some bugs in there, and hopefully be some new releases soon. I'm sure there's been other big moves in the collection, but they're some of the notable ones that I'm really proud of the community having achieved recently. I do want to do a call out to Mario, who's part of the steering committee. They do an amazing job continually looking at all of the collections that are in the Ansible Community package. Do you know how many collections we've got in there? It's about 100?
It's around 100.
Yeah, it's about 100 or so collections in there. And Mario's always checking the status of them. Are they being tested against the latest versions of Ansible? Are they responding to pull requests and issues? And, are they engaged? Because yes, it's a good thing to be in the Ansible Community package, but we have we're holding collections to a higher bar than just being on Galaxy, right? And what's been really good is we've moved some collections out because they're not meeting that standard. But also when we started that discussion, we've sometimes had people go, oh, I didn't realise, or we were struggling, but we didn't ask for help, or we didn't know how to ask for help. So we've actually had a few collections where we were going to remove them, and then either the original maintainers or new maintainers have stepped up and to help. And I think this is a real success for the Ansible community. I have one AI slide just before you all go to the part.
Oh, yeah.
Good, the bad, the ugly, or the good, the bad, and the slop, I guess, I don't know. So, AI is here, like it or not, I guess. So we need to talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about the negative sides first, because I think that's probably where we're going to get a bit more passion maybe on these things. So far, I think Ansible's been fairly lucky that we've not had too much AI slop, and by that I mean clearly hallucinated PRs or PRs that don't really make sense. We've had a few. I've had a few. We've seen a couple in collections. Forgive me, but nothing too bad. I've seen, remember, one forum post going, I'm trying to use this collection in Community General, and I'm just getting these weird errors. And I was looking through it and saying, oh, it looks all correct. That's really weird. Oh, go and have a look at the code for the module. Can't find the module. I see some of you have clicked in where I'm going with this already. Yeah, there's no such module. But I've done a really good job at defining what the object was and every parameter would be. It obviously read some of the API spec for whatever this thing was trying to automate, so I had to respond with I can't see this module, maybe you could point me to it, and I'm trying to use AI to do it. That's fine, you're learning, right? I'm not going to tell you off for using a tool to go and have a dig around and get some stuff working. So we've not had much junk. Some other projects definitely have. And I think Ansible's also quite lucky that because we're not this mono repo anymore, pre-collections, our collections are sort of spread around a bit more, so it's easier to spot these things. So for that note, we do have a few places where we've added in agents.md, the generic version of a Claude or Gemini.md. So we've got one in Ansible core. A slightly different thing we've got is for collections to go into the Ansible community package, we go through this quite stringent review, and some of it is technical and some of it we've got automated, some of it hasn't. So Andrew and the team's put together the one for that, and it's been quite interesting that you can sort of set it off running in parallel. We still do the human review, right? This is hoping to find extra things. We're not trusting any of this stuff yet. But it's a fairly labour-intensive process, and occasionally it spots things that you might have missed because it will walk over everything. And now we've had some good luck there. Community bezel. It's also got a chunk of AI contributions, and that's worked well because it's sort of automating against an API. And the OpenWRT collection, and there's a link there some more. So those bits have been, working well. So we've got sort of two places on the forum where we've been talking about this. We've been talking for a while, but not necessarily made any decisions yet about what should Ansible's AI policy be. We've not made any updates yet, but the existing Ansible wording is we value meaningful contributions over spam is basically how it's written already. So we think that sort of captures, and we have had to enforce that a couple of times, but nothing too bad. And sort of the more sort of forward-looking is the other one of how can we make it easier to contribute to Ansible, hence these different agents MDs, or how what are other things we can do. So if you think about how these LLMs get trained up, well, they consume knowledge, right? So with all the work we've been doing on the upstream docs, if you format your docs correctly, it means using headings and subheadings rather than bold for headings, then you have docs that can be consumed and learned and tokenized better. Also turns out that when you do this, you make it easier for documentation for humans to read, and especially those that want to use, say, screen readers or jump about and are better nav. So that's something we've done in some of the contributing guides. We made a bulk of updates to mid last year, which has been quite helpful. So first bits of show of hands. Who has been using AI to do Ansible related things? Anyone? That's about a third, maybe half of the room. Okay. Anyone been using AI to help contribute to Ansible? 2. Anyone? Is it just me and Nerds? Okay, that's fine. Anyone interested in maybe trying that? 1 person. Okay, 2. Cool. Come and talk to me. We'll see what we can do. I mean, nothing else. You've got a one-to-one mentor there. Bolly already knows me, so he doesn't get any extra help. Cool. In that case, if you want to know some real good things about how to do this, stick around in here afterwards, and David will be talking about how he's been using AI to better understand and manage the playbook. So that's a lot more hands-on technical that I think will be useful for you folks. So, meetups. Things have been changing. If nothing else, you probably got a lot of emails from me last year. So, who is registered on one or more of our Ansible meetups? Okay. Who did not know that Ansible was on meetup.com? Okay, this is so I'm guessing a lot of you live in little rural villages where there aren't meetups. Is that why? Yeah, or maybe that. I mean, then yeah, that's definitely part of it. So, we had a good chunk of events last year. We were obviously here last year, and we're here again now, which is always great. This is one of our main events these days. I mean, obviously apart from Red Hat Ansible Fest, but yeah, this is a community event, so much better. We're at DevConf. And last year we had 30 dedicated Ansible meetups across 16 cities. So we had a good spread over the globe. And we did our first virtual Ansible meetup, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. Well, this is one of the areas where we really want some help. So here we have our world map. So we picked, so maybe we've got 21 countries, 37 groups, and 28,000 members on meetup.com. Some of the groups were sort of defined to be countrywide, so we have like an Ansible India group, we have an Ansible Ireland group. We pay a chunk of cash to meet up, and there's some sort of balancing out needed between how fragmented do you want things, or in the case of India, well, we'll just have, I think we actually have 13 or 14 active cities there, and then it goes a little bit too much fragmented otherwise. Excuse me. So last year, Red Hat made the decision to go and invest in Meetup Pro, which is where we literally have a world map. So if you were to go to meetup.com/pro/Ansible, you'll see all of our groups and all of our events. We don't currently have an event schedule, so don't panic if you do have a look at that. But we've got a London one coming up, I think in March. We're just sorting out the final date. We're going to do the first Manchester one in a couple of months. There'll be another Indian one set up, and we're going to do a Benelux one again, aren't we? Trying to look around the room. Is he in here? Maybe in the other room.
There's probably going to be one in Montreal as well.
And one in Montreal soon. I would love for some folks to come and help with this. It doesn't take a huge amount of work. You know, most of you work with or associated with an office or know someone that has an office. We're not looking for a big, huge investment in time or effort or to do this stuff. And we know this stuff's involved. Like I've run groups, so's Mark and David there. So we've got this thing called the Ansible Meetup Toolkit, which is our opinionated way, and just all the little tidbits of information to go and make these things a bit easier. If you have any interest in this, and I hope some of you do, please come and chat with me or anyone else on the Ansible booth, or we'll exchange emails and sort of help you out. But at bare minimum, if we find a venue and someone that wants to maybe sponsor and give a small amount of money for some drinks and some pizza, you don't have to do either of those things, right? There's no expectation. It can make it nice, but all these things cost money. Go find a company that's actively recruiting, because they want to get a room with a load of people that know Ansible and are interested, and then they've got a targeted place, right? So it's the way of the world, right? Meetups are a brilliant way for you to go and meet other people and just talk about the good, the bad and the ugly, what's working, what isn't. We're not looking for polished presentations. It could be a 5-minute thing, it could be a 20-minute rant. I don't know, rants are good, they have passion, they come from a place, right? So if you're interested in any of that, come reach out to me. I can provide you with support. We do little bits on the forum. One of the things we really want to do is on the forum after the events. Now we're trying to get the event page updated. So that's the thing. So all of these, so for example, we're here now? No, we're here, aren't we? So we'll have links in there, or we'll have links to all the slides and the YouTube recording, because we want this, it's not just for those folks that are attending in person. We want to make this content available for everyone. So we tried something a little bit different. So since we moved to Meetup Pro, you can basically have what's called a virtual meetup. So you can invite all 28,000 people at once to a meetup. And it was, I think for us in Europe, it was 6 o'clock, and I can't do time zone maths, but available for the East Coast. And then you get folks in Australia going, is this right? It seems to be at 3 o'clock in the morning. You go, yes, that is right, but we'll try and do one that's a bit friendlier. So anyone here attend the online meetup? I think it was the 2nd of October? 5 or so? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's good. Apparently I forgot to upload it to YouTube, so if you haven't watched it, that's totally my fault, and that's one of my tasks for next week. And thank you to the member of the community that went and asked me that before, because I'd totally forgotten. Please grab a seat. So we called it a meetup. It's probably closer to a webinar, just based on the fact that we can't use Google Meet for that number of people. So it was a bit more of a broadcast with a text-based chat, and QA, and we did try to keep on top of that. But what I'd love to know is, we want to do these things again and definitely alter the time zone, especially so the Australians don't have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But, what can we do to make these things more accessible and more interactive, right? Because that's the whole point of these things, is we want to be interactive and get the discussion going. So yeah, we'll have time for Q&A, so that's what I'm going to plant there. So the bullhorn. Bullhorn is one of my favourite things. I think that and the forum are the two of my favourite things that we've achieved in Ansible. I mean, I'm really glad with the move to collections, but I went on paternity leave when a bit part way through doing collections. I was off for 3 months, and me and my husband adopted. It came back and it felt like the same problems were there. It was really painful. We got through it and we're all in a better place, but the bullhorn and the forum are two things that we put in that are absolutely amazing. And we recently reached 200th edition, which is 5 years in the making. I don't know how long have you been around in stuff, but 5 years is a good chunk of time. In Red Hat you get a little plaque if you stuck around for 5 years. So that was the 200th, I think we're on the 217th edition now. So, next bit of show of hands. Who has heard of the bullhorn? That's almost all of you. Right, okay, let's go. Who has not heard of the Bullhorn before? Start 20 maybe? Okay. Of those 20 people, have you heard of the Ansible forum? Okay, so the Ansible forum is powered by Discourse. Really, really complicated URL. forum.ansible.com. You can go there, and it's a place to hang out and just understand what's going on in Ansible. It's a place for you, not a place for me. I know what's going on in Ansible. It's a place for you to go. It's a place for me to find out what you think is going on in Ansible, so I can help educate. It's reached critical mass where everyone's just helping everyone. It's a place for you to go and hold me and Red Hat accountable to give us feedback, tell us the good, the bad, the ugly. So, Ansible, as you might have noticed, is about terrible puns. Sorry, brilliant puns. And one of those is the Bullhorn, because Ansible, okay, to a crowd. It's a weekly newsletter. The reason it was created was actually during COVID, where all the meetups and events had sort of gone away, and we wanted a way for folks to be able to communicate, a sense of community. I mean, it's digital, so it's not really the same as sitting in a room and having a drink and chatting. But we set it up as a way for you folks to communicate. And when I mean you folks, I mean, yes, some of the news comes from Red Hatters, by people paid by Red Hat, but the vast majority of news comes from folks like you contributing. So, for those of you that haven't subscribed, I really want you to go onto the Ansible forum later and create an account. If you come down to the Ansible booth, there's a little QR code, you will scan it, you can get a limited edition CfgMgmtCamp 2026 digital badge for your forum profile. It's good, don't knock it. So, a little bit of a timeline over the past 5 years of what we managed to achieve. So when we started this in April 2020, it was a very basic thing. It was you'd email meetup@ansible.com and say, I've got this bit of news. And we go, cool. And then we'd copy and paste it and alter your words and turn into something, and it would go out on MailChimp. And then the following year we went, okay, that works, but people emailing me in feels a bit weird and a bit slow and painful. So another community had this thing called This Week in Matrix, and they had a Matrix bot, a Matrix chat, so you could send it messages. Ansible at that point was sort of still more on the IRC side, so you could send it IRC messages. Or you could put a comment on a GitHub issue. But in May, we got rid of the GitHub issue, and it was all pretty much, the news was directly fed in by you folks. And one of the nice things about Matrix is it supports Markdown. So rather than writing a really boring, bland bit of sentence like that, I don't know why I sound like a Beatle there. You could put in something, go, here's a link to the changelog, here's some bullet points, and it was easy to read. You could skim through the whole of the Bullhorn article and get a quick sense of what was going on, which was great. At that point, we also went from every fortnight, every 2 weeks, to weekly. One of the reasons that we wanted the Bullhorn to have a sort of rapid feedback is we didn't want it to be this big curated corporate type of, I don't know what the technical word for that, corporate, I guess, newsletter thing. We wanted it to be quick fire, here's some updates, cool, are you interested? No, cool, here's the next one. Just keep the feedback. And it works, right? Because we announced our polls on the forum to get feedback, like, here's the thing we're thinking, but do you like it? Yes, no, quick feedback, iterate, improve, right? That's the whole point of this stuff. And it worked. And then in October, after we moved to Ansible forum, we got rid of MailChimp. It's a bit of a painful system, and everything is in the Ansible forum. So we can see who's looking at stuff, what interactions we're getting. And then, as I said, in September we reached the 200th article. We've had, and these numbers are from September, but we had 83 unique people who contributed to the Bullhorn, have taken time out to go and give us a little bit of feedback about their project or a blog they found or something cool. So one of the things we want to talk about tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a bit of time today, is, well, where do we want to go next? Matrix is good, but not everyone's on Matrix, and it's a barrier to entry, so how can we make this more accessible? I assume we're going to do something with the forum, but what can we do there? How can we increase the reach? We're also going to talk a bit tomorrow about social media. The world of social media has changed, so we know what can we do, where can we meet you where they are, and more importantly, how can we get new contributors in? All of you have done something cool with Ansible, or got some interest, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So there's a lot of voices here that haven't contributed, and I'd like to know. So here we have a graph of who has contributed to Ansible. Contributed. This is the number of editions of the bullhorn that you've contributed to. So I don't have my laser pointer, so hopefully here you can see this long tail here. We have 60 people here that have contributed to 1 or 2 editions of the bullhorn. This is one of those interesting graphs where the long tail is really, really important. That this is our diverse feedback. Right? This is from different parts of the community we haven't got. No. And then we have this massive spike, mainly of steering committee, and unsurprisingly, we have Dr. Fontaine up at the top here. For those of you that have been involved with the community, that would not come as a surprise. And then we have some member of the community team, and then a big spike of other core contributors. Sorry, I shouldn't use the word core in Ansible, should I? Lead contributors. So I'd like to mix the dots at the bottom of there, and I'm going to be checking in, because I know who's here, and I'm going to look at you up on the forum. So help us for that. Right, I've been told I've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. This is the vanity graph for the Ansible form. This is page views. Yes, up and right. It's totally meaningless. This is the better graph. So this is the time to response in hours from someone posting. So even at the beginning of this year and the end of 2025, most posts are getting a response or first feedback within a low number of hours, not even a day. So this is showing that the Ansible community, the Ansible forum, is self-serving. Right? This isn't about Red Hatters sitting in a support desk type configuration responding. This is you folks helping you folks. I've got loads of other stats around this, but this is one of the things that I'm really, really proud of, and it shows that the forum was the right decision, and it shows that it's growing, and it shows that we've got the right setup. So we're moving more things to the forum. Like I mentioned earlier, the Ansible Network Slack instance that's been a ghost town. We're going to redo the way we do the networking tags, the groupings in the forum, and push everything into there. We talked a bit earlier about empowering trust. So one of the other changes we made last year was members of the steering committee now have moderator rights on the forum, so they can approve for the first time post, and that's one of the ways that we combat AI and AI slot, but also just spam generally. And that's worked really well. So when you folks are looking at the forum, you're seeing posts that make sense. You're not having to wait to be spam, because it's, for those of you who've been on Reddit, it's just a drain. It just makes it harder to, just mental tax on doing stuff. So, for this year, my team, we've got sort of 3 main focuses. We want to carry on improving the quality of the content, particularly around collections. I want to do a lot more to improve content discoverability and user adoption. We've got some ideas for maybe some controversial things around Galaxy. Anyone notice the Galaxy went down for about a day? Cool. Well, let me flip that around. Who didn't notice the Galaxy went down? Okay, that's maybe about a third. Yeah, I mean, it's a service. It's not capital S supported. It probably should be. We need to do some things there, and we've got some ideas of what we want to do there. And obviously, we want to make maintainers' lives easier. So, I really hope that you'll be around tomorrow to join in some of these discussions. We'll be in room 14, so just down the hall. But I will now pause, and we've got just a couple of minutes for questions. But thank you very much.